So in our fast track area, we want to talk about the fast track products tonight. I want to give you some history on them, give you a little bit of understanding what the fast track products do and why they're the leaders in the field of direct fed microbials since 1986. These four guys are gone but not forgotten. Dr. Eugene Stearns was our biochemist on staff, and he came up with the idea of fast track. Back in early 80s, he decided that he wanted to develop a product for livestock that focused on the use of probiotics. They were called at that time. And the reason is probiotics really stimulate gut activity. They do their work, as I'll talk more about, but they do their work in the gut of the animal. But Dr. Eugene Stearns was a biochemist on staff at the Conklin company. He recruited a couple of guys, Dr. Kim Shahani and Dr. Terry Kloffenstein, who were professors at the University of Nebraska. Kim Shahani in food science and technology, an expert in the area of probiotics, direct-fed microbials. Dr. Terry Kloffenstein was my first feeds and feeding instructor as a freshman in college back in 1970, and he was a guy that had a vision for using these products in especially cattle. He was a beef nutritionist. Dr. Larry Roth came along a little bit later. Dr. Roth was a PhD in ruminant nutrition, grew up in Wyoming, went to Cheyenne for his undergrad, went to Texas A&M for his master's, went to University of Nebraska for his PhD in that area. And so these guys developed the products, Fast Track. And Fast Track was introduced as a livestock probiotic in 1986. Dr. Larry Roth came on staff, and what's that?
Dave Dahl said you're breaking up a little
Okay.
bit.
Dr. Larry Roth came on staff later as our product marketing manager. When he came on staff, we actually had 4 products in the Fast Track line. When he left, we had 19. And so that gives you a little bit of an idea of his impact on our industry and on these products. The original 3 Fast Track products that were introduced in 1986, most people don't know about these because most of them were discontinued fairly quickly. We had a Fast Track microbial pack, we called it. Actually, it was called the Probiotic pack back in those days. But to give you an idea of how things have changed, today they tell us we really shouldn't refer to these as probiotics because probiotics are a huge part of the industry of health for humans. And so for humans, we're supposed to talk about probiotics. For animals, we're supposed to talk about direct-fed microbials. It's a change in terminology that really has no difference. And so it's a distinction without a difference is what I would call it. Our Fast Track Beef Dairy Pack and our Fast Track Swine Packs were a couple of products that we introduced, and they were vitamin mineral premixes along with the probiotics. Well, 2 things I think, we're really fortunate. One is somebody decided fairly quickly that we didn't really want to get into the feed business. There's lots of people. I grew up on a farm. I worked with a lot of people in all types of livestock. I had an undergrad degree in animal science. And everybody has different philosophies and ideas on nutrition for animals. So we got rid of these products. We decided we'd rather be the experts in the area of direct-fed microbials, probiotics for livestock, and not get into the feed business in direct competition with hundreds of other companies. Today, it's interesting. A lot of those other companies they'll introduce a probiotic. It'll be far inferior to Fast Track, but they have attempted to get into our space, and Conklin has continued to be the leaders in livestock probiotics and microbials. So this is just a sampling of our product line, but these are the primary products we use in the case of equine and horses. But we have products for dairy, beef, swine, poultry. We have products in all those different areas that in every case, I can say kind of universally that in almost every case that you can quantify. It's pretty hard to quantify, feed efficiency in a horse. But in the case of a cow, chickens, poultry, swine, what we see is we can typically get at least a $5 return for a dollar spent on Fast Track in these types of livestock operations where we can quantify it. So what does it do? Well, digestive tract health is really the foundation of the entire animal's health. If the digestive tract is working right, the animal will be performing well. Whether it's for feed efficiency, average daily gain, whether it's speed and performance as a horse, whatever. But here's the thing that we've discovered is that digestive health is really the key. It's interesting, the two largest organs in a human body, and probably would parallel in most animals, is the digestive tract and the skin. If you stop and think about it, they say if you took a human digestive tract and you could spread it out, the surface area of a human digestive tract would cover a tennis court. And if you'd scrape it clean, you'd have a pile of 1 pound of live digestive bacteria. Well, if you got the right bacteria going, the animal's being very efficient. If you got the wrong bacteria going, the animal's probably pretty sick. So that's basically the difference that the live beneficial bacteria makes in the digestive tract. Along those lines, in the FASTRACK presentation we did just a short time ago here, I talked about the fact that there's a couple of books that are really interesting I've read recently. They're both by a guy by the name of David Perlmutter, who's a PhD neurologist. And one of the things he says is his first book was called Grain Brain, and it talks about the fact that a lot of people have sensitivities to grains, gluten, especially gluten intolerance, celiac, things like that. But in most cases, what he says is that most people have some intolerance to those, and the reason is because most of our grains today have 40 times the concentration of gluten that ancient grains did, whether it's through the breeding of our plants, for higher yields, for better baking quality, whatever it is. We've somehow concentrated the gluten. Well, that gluten, people's bodies sometimes have a negative reaction to that. But he also says there's a link between that and brain health. He says, in fact, there's a direct correlation between gluten intolerance, diabetes, and Alzheimer's. His next book was interesting, though. It's called The Brain Maker. And the number one thing he says in the book Brain Maker is the most important thing for brain health is a probiotic on a daily basis. And so, at any rate, so digestive health has direct response to every other part of your health. So digestive tract health is the foundation for the whole animal. Digestive tract of a horse is so unique. It's interesting. As an animal science major, I primarily focused on production animals, dairy, beef, swine. But the reality of it is the horse is unique. I always used to kid people. I say, really, if you think about the horse's digestive tract, it's got 4 stomachs like a cow does, but they're flipped upside down. And think of it this way. I always say it's as if God gave the assignment to create a digestive tract for the horse to a committee. And we know how disastrous that can be. But anyway, the digestive tract of a horse is really critical because the lower GI tract is where the probiotics do their work. And in the lower GI tract of a horse, that's where the absorption of proteins takes place. Well, what's protein turn into? It turns into hair and hoof quality. And so that's one of the key things people tell us over and over and over when they're using FASTRACK in a horse's ration on a daily basis. Their hair quality, their hoof quality is just unlike anything they've seen before. So here in the case of the FASTRACK, our main product that's been around for years and years, is very recognizable to people. The color, the FASTRACK brand, it's probably got more brand name recognition than anything we've had in the last 50 years in the Conklin company. But the microbial feed product comes in a 5-pound bag. Typical full-grown horse or cow would get an ounce of that per day. So 80 ounces is what you're going to have in a 5-pound bag. A bale, we call it, is a 50-pound bundle of 10 of those 5-pound bags. So this is probably the most common, probably the biggest seller that we have in the FASTRACK line. We have other products that have gotten some additional ingredients added to them for specific species especially. But the mission is to dominate that digestive tract microflora that safely maximize the diet utilization and the health to assist the animal in reaching its genetic potential. I thought it was kind of interesting. Dr. Stanley Gilliland from Oklahoma State University, I know some of the guys watching the video tonight probably know Stanley or have known him in the past. A primary benefit, he says that a primary benefit of probiotics is to control intestinal infections. If you get the wrong bacteria going, E. coli, Salmonella, Clostridia, Cryptosporidia, things like that, you end up with an animal that's going to have scours in a few days. They're going to be, really sick. Some probiotic bacteria can increase nutrient utilization, converting certain components in the diet into more digestible nutrients for the host animal. So we help break down the feed so that the animal is able to absorb it. One of the things we found is that you can take a manure sample from animals and have it tested and find out how much carbohydrates, how much protein is coming through in the manure that's not being fully utilized and digested by the animal. Add FASTRACK to the diet, and 2 or 3 weeks later take another manure sample, and what you'll see is dramatic reduction because they just do a better job of digesting and absorbing everything that you're spending money to feed them. Especially in the case of horses, they eat a lot. They don't call them hay burners for nothing. I mean, it's interesting. I grew up with horses, but my daughter, when she was young, wanted to have a horse, and a friend of mine worked with a church camp. And they had a horse program. And so he said, well, have you ever thought about adopting a horse? And I said, adopt a horse? I said, what's that? He says, well, during the off season, when their campers aren't here, he says, we adopt these horses out. What he means is they're going to have somebody else feed them and take care of them and doctor them. And so this little pony that we got for the winter, it was a terrible winter, went through 2 pickup loads of hay, I don't know how many bags of FASTRACK, went through worming twice. I mean, that free pony was really expensive. So I know that anybody that owns horses has got to have some money or an addiction, one of the two. Probiotics have been shown to enhance feed efficiency, improve hair and hoof quality and appearance in horses, and reduce digestive-related problems such as full heat, scours, and colic. Those are some really key things that we see people telling us all the time if they have horses. This is old packaging. I'll just warn you, today this just says microbial pack. And unfortunately, I don't have a current picture of our full product line with all that. But here's the primary components that you're going to get in the FASTRACK products. Beneficial bacteria, 2 really potent strains, high concentrations. One of the key things that I tell people that happened when FASTRACK was introduced in 1986 is there was really only one manufacturer of a probiotic in the livestock space, and that was Pioneer. Pioneer had spent lots of money proving that if you had a really weak animal, post-therapy, certain applications, they could show economic return. But they had a single strain of bacteria and a carrier. That was basically it. When FASTRACK was introduced, we introduced it and we called it LS4000, was kind of our trade name. And what it included was these 2 strains, Lactobacillus acidophilus and Strep facium. The Strep facium especially is much more hardy and it multiplies faster. And they're at freeze-dried form. And part of the change in the probiotic industry at that time was that we had technology where we could produce a concentrated form of freeze-dried bacteria at much higher concentrations than had previously been available. And we had 2 different strains that complemented each other. Now you can put too many strains in a product and they actually compete with each other. But these products, these 2 really work well together. We added yeast cultures and enzymes. That actually feeds the bacteria. So as they get into the animal's digestive tract, they're freeze-dried, they get warm and they get wet. When they get in the animal's digestive tract, they begin to multiply every 16 to 18 minutes. Primarily because we've fed them and we send them in there with a sack lunch, is the way we put it. Protein and start digesting enzymes are in there too that again help break down the feed more completely so the bacteria can then convert it to energy. We have something that we've added just in recent years called FOS. FOS is a prebiotic. It is something that stimulates the growth of bacteria that's already in the gut. A perfect example of that is in the gut of the animal, there's a bacteria called bifidobacteria. Bifidobacteria, if we put it in our product, would have to be refrigerated or it would just not be any use. I mean, it'd just die off. But we know it's in the digestive tract. FOS stands for fructooligosaccharides, and what it is a selective food source. If you read the label, it'll show up as chicory root. And what that is, it's a selective food source that feeds that bifidobacteria that we know is in the gut and stimulates the growth of that bacteria as well as our other bacteria. In the selected probiotics products like the boluses, our ruminant gel, we have a product called liquid dispersible, and we will have additional vitamins, minerals, and some specialized proteins. Let me explain to you what specialized proteins are. My daughter and I were watching a television show It was a food cooking channel. And she said, Dad, she says, if you ever hear them talk about crisp, she says that means fried. So it's kind of code. Well, code in our business is when we talk about specialized proteins, they literally take specific viruses, like canine has a virus called parvovirus. In other species, they have other specific bugs that are a problem. Well, if you take parvovirus and you inject it into a hen, when that hen lays an egg, within the egg yolk is what they call specialized proteins. It is actual antibodies against parvovirus. We take that egg yolk, we dry it, we create an egg powder from it. That egg powder is incorporated in this product. So when you take our canine gel product and you give it to a mother that's about ready to birth pups, or if you give it to the baby pups when they're first born, you not only have these bacteria in there to to get the digestive tract going appropriately, help those pups get they're more aggressive in their appetite, they'll nurse better, but you also ward off parvovirus because there's a specialized protein which is actually an antibody against that. And so we have that in several of our products. In our Jumpstart gel, you'll find that for equine and for also for bovine species, and in our boluses for calves, and you'll find it in there as well. So probiotics in general, I say, and FASTRACK specifically, are what I call stress-sensitive products. So people say, well, when should I use this product? I said, the most dramatic response is always going to be when an animal's under some kind of stress. So birth is kind of stressful on both mama and baby. Weaning is a stressful period of time. Transport, anytime you put an animal on a truck to go any place or an airplane, they should get some FASTRACK before they get on there, and they should get some at the other end as well. And then during any kind of illness or post-therapy, the thing about post-therapy is whenever you administer antibiotics orally or by injection, those antibiotics are typically non-specific. They're going to kill whatever's in the environment of that animal, the gut, the bloodstream, wherever it is. So what they do is they really they'll actually kill off the live beneficial digestive bacteria. What we're doing is we're restarting that with the good bugs before any of the bad bugs have a chance to come back. In general, your bad bugs like E. coli, Salmonella, Clostridia, Crypto, they're aggressive. They grow very rapidly. You get an infection in a herd or in an operation, it can really turn bad really quickly. So FASTRACK in newborn animals is key. The newborns have a bacteria-free digestive system. So what you want to have is you want to have something that will jumpstart that digestive tract with the good bacteria to start with. Number two, their digestive tract will become populated by whatever's in the environment. So if it's contaminated with the bad bugs, you're going to pick those up. The goal of administering a probiotic at birth is to introduce beneficial digestive bacteria to establish a population of those bacteria for healthy digestion. One of the things that's kind of interesting, this reminds me of a study we did several years ago on several thousand head of hogs in a large hog operation. And what we did is we treated every baby pig in the operation. We had a control in one side of the farrowing house and a treated in another, just across the aisle. And what we found was that the pigs that got a dose, 1 cc of the FASTRACK gel within 12 hours of birth, they were dramatically healthier. They weighed almost 1.5 pounds heavier at 3 weeks of age than the ones that didn't get it. The death loss was significantly less. We tried another study where all we did was feed FASTRACK to the sows, to the mamas, before they farrowed. Never touched the pigs. And we had almost the same results, which tells me that this is a herd health approach. If the sow has FASTRACK in her ration, she's going to be more efficient in everything she does. She's going to be more efficient in developing those fetuses. She's going to be more effective in milking, and the milk quality will be better for those baby pigs. But the other thing is that those pigs will pick up just off of nursing and coming through the birth canal. They'll pick up that environment. That book by Dr. Perlmutter talks significantly about some of the things that will typically indicate whether you're going to have digestive issues the rest of your life based on how you were born. And it all relates to this, concept of the live beneficial bacteria really are synergistic in our health. Unchecked or undeterred neonatal diseases can dramatically impair adult performance by doing permanent damage. I think this isn't this. I think I've got a picture later here. Dr. Larry Roth always said that you can take a thoroughbred that was, birthed by the fastest mare and the fastest stallion, and if you give them full heat scours, you can turn them into a backyard pony. Because if you have digestive problems early on, this is a close-up of the digestive villi in the digestive tract, and that's really where FASTRACK does its work. We really have to have a hardy product that'll get through the digestive acids of the stomach, because this is where they do their work. They colonize in the gut, and this is why if you could spread that surface area out, you'd have a tennis court, is because these villi have huge amount of surface area. Well, if that animal has early scouring problems and then you overdose it with antibiotics to try to kill off that problem, this is what you can do. You can create what they call leaky gut on these products available. So birth is the number one place. FASTRACK can be administered at birth or shortly after in a variety of ways depending on the species. We have gel products for equine, for canine. We have gel products for bovine and pigs. We have it in a liquid dispersible form. It's the same material basically as what you get in the feed pack form, but it's 10 times as concentrated. It can go through a watering system. These buckets are usually designed for use in the watering systems of poultry houses and swine operations. The bolus product is typically used for calves, and we have a cow bolus as well. FASTRACK benefits any kind of challenged animal. If they're not eating for any reason, it really stimulates their appetite. Stresses at birth or weaning, sickness of any kind, normal production challenges. If you get a change in the weather, you get a change in the feed or the management, all those kind of things can throw an animal off feed. Used before, during, and after any challenge to get the animal back on feed. FASTRACK normal animals, if we're going for efficiency and performance, excellence, high performance requires an animal to be healthy every day. Lactating at high levels for the milk tank or the baby at the side requires health to produce high quality milk in quantity. Growing animals need the feed efficiency edge of FASTRACK to properly perform daily, and daily supplement ensures that they'll get the maximum out of their diet every day. So again, horses, I always tell people, it's very hard to quantify, in an animal. We've had some people, I know Pat Fate, who's has shipped horses all over the world, says that she sees dramatic reduction in weight loss when you're transporting animals when they've been on FASTRACK or they're getting FASTRACK on a regular basis. But I tell people, you can't really quantify it, like feed efficiency, average daily gain, those kind of things in horses as much as you can appearance. And the appearance of the horse is so critical. Their energy levels are better, hoof quality and hair coat are the big things. A good friend of mine, Dr. Michael Brown, he's a veterinarian down at Arab, Alabama, and he told me this story, and I'll give you just the high points of it. But this was a saddlebred foal, Juliet's phantom stock. She was suffering from pneumonia, antibiotic-induced diarrhea, and was diagnosed with fatal colitis before he got a hold of her. And he said she was owned by a federal judge, and he said, the last thing I wanted to do is have that animal die at my clinic. And so he tried everything, and somebody had told him about FASTRACK, and he said not only did the foal survive, and in fact, here's kind of the rest of the story. The manager of that equine operation actually had a hole dug for this foal. He was carried in to the clinic. And Dr. Brown says, this is a year later in the show ring, and at the Kentucky State Fair Saddlebred World Championship show in 2005, and he said, this colt more than any other has convinced me of the benefit of FASTRACK products. Tara Bynum is a PCA champion barrel racer, And she said, this spring my horse worked great and handled the soft ground and this crazy weather the best he has ever in the last 3 years. That was actually the first time I've ever made the short go there, so I was very excited. I'm very happy and pleased with his performance as well as his health and well-being. He has maintained his appetite, weight, and is healthy as a horse with FASTRACK. Debbie Early from Arkansas said, before FASTRACK I was using 4 bags of feed and 1,000 pounds hay bale per month for my horses. Since using FASTRACK, I now use 3 bags of feed per month, and that same 1,000-pound bale lasts nearly 6 weeks. Dr. Clint Van Winkle, a good friend of ours from down in Beatrice, Nebraska, raises quarter horses. And he has 35 horses on the place, feeds them FASTRACK, every single one, every single day. He says it more than pays for itself just in improved feed efficiency. They get more out of their feed and the horses look better. Oscar Swanstrom died a couple years ago, but we have a video of him talking about, very convincingly, about the importance of a probiotic in quality health of a horse's hoof. I won't read through the whole thing, but he said, he's quoted in one of the equine magazines as FASTRACK being the only product he really recommends because he sees effective improvement in hoof health. Here's a close-up, and what you see here is a horse that was growing out a hoof that was really cracked, problem hoof, but you could see as soon as they started feeding FASTRACK how different the hoof started growing out. Typically it'll be a little bit lighter in color, smoother. As if you pull the FASTRACK out of the diet, you'll see the old tendencies come back. So it does make a significant difference in hoof quality in a horse. This is Glenn and Carol Cudmore at Glen Prairie Stables with a Holsteiner Stallion. One of the things I remember Glenn saying, I think he had about 80 horses on the place, and people would say, do you groom your horses every day? Because they shine so much. He says, we don't have time to groom horses, Carol would say. But the FASTRACK really shows up in hair and hoof quality. This is an interesting testimony from Chris Pierce out of Montana, Gold Creek, Montana is I think where she's from. She says, my first experience with FASTRACK equine microbial and enzyme pack came with the breeding of a 23-year-old well-bred mare I got for a song. The previous owners had paid for a breeding clinic for 2 years and they were not successful in getting her bred. I put her on FASTRACK for 3 months before I bred her, and she got bred the first cycle. She continued breeding and had her last foal at 28 years of age. Once I started all my mares and studs on FASTRACK, I never had to rebreed any of my mares. So it's a total animal health approach. It's not a cure for anything, but my friend Michael Brown says that if you can give your body, and it goes for this horse too, but if you can give your body proper nutrition at the cellular level, your body has more ability to heal itself than any wheelbarrow full of drugs ever will. And that's what we're seeing here. If the animal's healthy, the expression of good health is performance, hair, coat, hoof quality, breeding. FASTRACK performs naturally. Increase the performance levels of an animal, improves feed intake and efficiency, fewer digestive and health disorders, improved hair and hoof quality, improved long-term health. And so our full line of products now, like there's about 19 of them, I think, in the full line. But we have a small grouping of products, and I didn't really talk about it. And this is an old picture too. This is a bucket, but now the FASTRACK Equine Microbial Pack and Enzyme Pack comes in a black plastic bag, Ziploc bag. That product is in a 4-pound bag, and it includes enzymes as well as some vitamins and minerals, so it goes beyond just FASTRACK that we would use in other species. But it's interesting, and that's the product that Chris Pierce was talking about, feeding our horses. But that product really has a huge following in the equine area. We have a product called Fortifier, which is really a vitamin mineral premix. It's designed to be fed with the FASTRACK enzyme and microbial pack. And so you feed those two together. Dr. Clint Van Winkle, I asked him what he feeds most of his horses. He feeds most of his horses the basic product. This is a little cheaper, but honestly, when most horse people find out what the retail cost of these products are, they can't believe how inexpensive they are, because we're really a production livestock company that's developed some really cool products for equine. So that's the products that FASTRACK we have for this whole area of livestock, but especially in the equine area. So thanks for being with us.